Mario Kart Wii is possibly the most famous Mario Kart entry released to date. Hell, even the most famous racing game. While yes, it's been way outsold by 8 Deluxe, it has a legacy that has long outlasted it. It still has a big competitive and modding scene, with mod packs like CTGP Revolution and Retro Rewind still receiving updates till this day. I know I personally have been playing this game since I was like 3 years old, and recently that fact got me thinking. I've been playing on this game's 32 tracks for so long, and I don't think I've ever really thought about what my favorite is, let alone how I'd order them all. So, today, I want to solve that problem, as I've ordered all of this game's tracks into a tier list, and we can go through it together, and I'll explain my thoughts on a track and more as we go along. And also, alongside just ranking the tracks, at the end, we're going to use all this data to figure out which cup reigns supreme over the others, but, you know, one step at a time. I don't really think there's much more to discuss than that, so let's just start at the very bottom with... To start us off, F tier is the smallest tier in this list, and basically comprises of tracks that I don't like and would rather not race on. Not that they are completely awful, they just suffer from some issues. And starting us off, we have my least favorite track in the game, DS Desert Hills. Now, this track isn't bad, it's just so boring. I will at least throw it a bone, and say that out of every iteration of this track, it's at its best in Mario Kart Wii. I do like the theming of this track, being heavily inspired by Mario 3, but the DS version already did that. Look, it's just that there really isn't much going for this track. It's got a rather simple and bland layout with not many obstacles, besides those like 2 pokies, and the fireballs, and it just feels kind of barren. And yes, I know it's a desert, they are known for being barren, but as we'll see later, it's not hard to make a good desert track. But whatever, it's honestly just fine, which is a very good baseline for this game's track selection. And to round out this very short tier, we have SNES Ghost Valley 2. Another just okay track. I do at least value that it's the shortest track in the game. I do find this track more interesting than Desert Hills, as it does at least have some unique things going for it. For one, it's the only ghost-themed track in the game, and also has a gimmick that tries its hardest to be even slightly interesting. Basically, when you bump into one of the blocks on the side of the track, it will fall down, removing that part of the railing. This would be interesting if it wasn't for the fact that this track is rather wide, and also over within a minute of racing. But hey, unlike Desert Hills, there's actually interesting things to talk about, like how this track has the worst song in the game. I mean, I can't really blame them. They had to work with whatever they had in Super Mario Kart, but it's just rather dull, not really fitting a racing game. But again, it's over so quickly that this really isn't an issue. But after those 2 very underwhelming tracks, we can finally move on to the next tier, where we have the tracks that I just find slightly disappointing. At the bottom of D tier, we have N64 Sherbet Land. This track has a lot of similarities to Desert Hills. They both have rather bland layouts that can feel a little bit long, but Sherbet Land at least has some cool oddities, like its ice physics that really change how you approach corners, especially when it's easy to become used to how tight you can take corners with inside drifting bikes. I also do like the vibe of this track, especially with the penguins littered all throughout the stage. It all just really comes back to its bland layout. There are some neat moments like the cave and the ramp shortcut, but all of that really doesn't mean much when the rest of the track is so empty. They have penguins waddling around the track as obstacles, which does help, but it doesn't remove that feeling of emptiness. But to me, it's leagues above our last 2 tracks, and all in all, can be a fun race. Next up, we have GBA Shy Guy Beach. A lot of my criticisms are the same as our previous entries, but this track has a lot of good qualities. I really like the vibe of this track, with its bright colors and giant Shy Guy pirate ship in the background, and I think it helps distinguish itself from the other beach track found in the game. Along with this, it does have a slightly interesting gimmick. As you race along the track, bombs will be flung from the pirate ship, and you have to dodge them or, you know, explode. I like the bombs. I think that it's just kind of another nothing gimmick, like Ghost Valley, but unlike Ghost Valley, it can actually impact your races if you go kaboom. Along with this, I do actually like how open this track is, as unlike Sherbet Land's openness, You can actually use this to your advantage and take a lot of shortcuts, but still, it's a rather dull track. Next up, we have DS Yoshi Falls. In all honesty, this track could probably be lower than it is, but there's a couple key differences from the tracks above. While it has a much more simple layout compared to pretty much every track in this game, it is kinda just an oval with a bump. The atmosphere and vibes are way better than the track it precedes. The whole area of this track is just very pleasant. Along with this, I do like that they tried to shake things up a little bit, with the waterfalls that you can drive through that will push you around, but there really isn't enough risk to make it seem like a huge decision. But waterfalls aside, it really doesn't save the track from placing this low, as while it's certainly a fun track for the vibes and music, it doesn't really save that this is an oval. Oh, and speaking of ovals, next up we have our first Nitro track, Luigi Circuit. Now I'm gonna be honest, this track is really boring. There isn't a single gimmick to be found, and you spend most of the track driving straight, but I feel like I have to give this track some credit because it's kind of the point that it's boring, I think. As this is the first track you're supposed to play when starting the game, but that doesn't really save this track too much because we have had starter tracks in other Mario Kart games with more depth to them. But I thought I should still keep its starter track origins in mind when ranking this. But besides that, it's not a bad track to race on. I like the vibes and the music's fun, even if it does share it with another track, but it is kinda just a nothing track. But that's it for D tier. This alongside F tier house the only tracks in the game that I would kinda consider bad. While the other ones above this aren't clear from problems, their merits do outweigh their negatives. But anywho, let's keep this moving and go on to our biggest tier yet. To start C tier, we have N64 DK Jungle Parkway, which has the longest name in the game, I think. Oh yeah, the track. I don't dislike DK's Jungle Parkway, I just think that it has really big missed potential. It's kinda just quite long and boring, but it has some cool moments, like jumping the lake, the bridge, the cave, and other cool bits, but overall this track is just rather plain, as there aren't really any obstacles, but it's a fun track to race on, and I love the sunset aesthetic. But there's just tough competition among DK tracks and tracks in general in this game, to where I find this rather middling track falls way behind. Next up, we have another track from the N64, with N64 Mario Raceway. This falls into a lot of similar trappings as Jungle Parkway. It has a lot of straightaways with not much going on, but it slightly makes up for it with more interesting shortcuts and moments, like with the mushroom and the giant warp pipe. Along with this, it does have some more slightly interesting obstacles, with the piranha plants littered throughout the off-road. Okay, I said slightly more interesting, not interesting. Next up, we have our last GBA track, already? GBA Bowser's Castle 3. Like a lot of the tracks in this tier, I find it kinda hard to have much of an opinion on this track, as it's very middle of the road when it comes to all of its racing aspects. But it's got a decently fun layout, very twisty and turny, but there's one thing I really don't like. I find these yellow jump bar thingies to feel very clunky. They were also prominent in Shy Guy Beach, but didn't really feel as strange as they do here. But still, it has some decent segments, it just really isn't that memorable to me, outside of the ultra shortcut that was found. But I'm not going to be factoring any of that into this ranking, as I'm pretty sure it's not intended. Along with this, it's got decent music and an okay atmosphere. I do like the purple color that's found throughout the track. It does distinguish itself from other lava tracks, but the track's just kinda okay. Next up, we have a much better sort of starter course with Mario Circuit. Now, this is more what I expect from a starter course in Mario Kart. It's even shown in the opening movie. It's simple, but not mind-numbingly so, like in Luigi's Circuit. I really like the turn with the chain chomp, as I like the options of either continuing on the road and trying to dodge the chain chomp, or taking the shortcut and trying to jump the ramp. It's not a crazy map, but it's quite fun for how simple the layout is. Along with this, the music is also quite fun, but it's already from Luigi's Circuit, so there's not much to talk on. And I like the addition of Peach's Castle in the background, even though they do that for a lot of Mario Circuits. Next up, we have the ever-present Moo Moo Meadows. It's actually the track to follow up Luigi's Circuit, so it does have a rather simple layout, but not too simple, with some rather twisty parts and the cool hilly section at the end. I do love how much off-road there is here, with lots of options for item usage. And it's got decent obstacles as well, with the cows and Monty moles, which can force you into some tough turns. And the vibes here are just so nice with the bright green grass and the clear sky, and just such pleasant music. I will say, I try not to let this affect my ranking too much, but I will say that I'm quite tired of this track at this point. After being in both Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Mario Kart World, it's a little overdone. It's a good track, just maybe not returning this often good. After that, we have GCN Peach Beach. Another oval track, kinda, but this time with some style. While yes, it does have a rather uninteresting layout, it succeeds at its other areas. First off, the track has two main gimmicks. Roaming around the area of the track, we have a bunch of Cataquacks. And hey, no disrespect to the Cataquacks, I love those little guys. But they pretty much just run around and launch you if you get too close. But the thing that makes this track interesting is the water, as it actually rises and falls throughout the track, making it so that the best way to race the track is to follow the tide closely, which makes what should be a pretty dull track into a pretty fun time. After that, we have our last N64 track with N64 Bowser's Castle. I do like this track. It's got some decent challenge to it, especially those stupid thwomps at the beginning. But I do think, like the other N64 tracks in this game, it does have a bit of an issue with straightaways, but it never really becomes as apparent as the other two. The only part I can think of is the middle section, around the small bridge and the staircase. But besides that, this is a pretty good track with some good stuff going on. I'm a big fan of the big Bowser statue and the thwomps and the lava bubbles, and while they are kind of frustrating at times, it's cool to have some challenge. The only other thing to nitpick is that the music isn't that interesting. But like before with all these retro tracks, it's not like they could just create a brand new music track to go along with it. Next, there's a track that I'm not sure if people will agree on for its placement, but that track is SNES Mario Circuit 3. Now, I really actually don't have much to say in defense of this track, but I just really like how twisty and turny the layout is, and it's just a fun track to race on. But I do admit its other areas are really lacking. The music is fine, I at least think the original song is pretty decent, so it's not like they could ruin it. And there really isn't anything in the way of gimmicks or obstacles. Okay, I mean there's oil slicks on the ground, but I know that's a stretch. But still, I think it's just a fun layout, and it doesn't overstay its welcome, so I think I'm gonna place it at least a little high. Finally, rounding out our longest tier, we have Grumble Volcano. This is another one that I'm not sure if people will agree on for its placement, but that's more for it being too low than being too high, like SNES Mario Circuit 3. But anyways, I will say that conceptually this track is a really cool idea. How throughout the race, the track will have bits sink into the lava, making it harder and harder to race through. My only complaint is that I wish they went further with this idea, because outside of this, I don't really find the layout very compelling. It does have a cool split path, but it feels kinda obvious which one is better once you've gone through them. In the way of gimmicks, we do have some neat stuff, like the volcano spitting out fire, and of course the falling road, but I don't know. I guess this track really never clicked with me like it did others, but I guess that's what opinions are for. Now, let's move on to our next tier as we really get into the good stuff. We start off B tier with GCN Mario Circuit. Not to be confused with Mario Circuit, SNES Mario Circuit 3, and especially not Luigi Circuit. For lack of a better term, I think this is the most Mario-y a Mario Circuit has been. With bright green grass, going around Peach's castle, the piranha plants, Goombas, chain shop, all of it's just really fun. I also really like how this track is honestly a little challenging, especially for a Mario Circuit. The chain shop is fun to have to race around, and it's a rather windy track. Along with this, the vibes and music are great, and overall it's just a fun track to race. And not really anything of note to bring it down. Afterwards, we take a nice trip down to Delfino Island for the track DS Delfino Square. Firstly, the vibe of this track is amazing. While I'm not the biggest fan of Super Mario Sunshine, I will admit the Isle Delfinos is such a great setting. Along with this, we've never really had this sort of vibe from a Mario Kart track before, with this bustling market town, but for the actual track, I really like the layout. It's very twisty and turny, as I've said before, and has two pretty cool shortcuts with the dock and cutting through the buildings. Along with those, the bridge is such a great set piece. I like that it makes the track feel a little more random as the bridge is always rising and falling, but this track is just such a blast and has great music to go along with it. But next, we have to move on to GCN Waluigi Stadium. I may be more of a Wario Coliseum guy, but this is a great track. I really like these more arena-type tracks in Mario Kart, and this track feels right at home in the game, honestly even more so than Double Dash, as the addition of half-pipes and motorcycles feel just right for this track. But for the layout itself, it's pretty fun. Lots of fun jumps, which feel right at home in this game, and it's got some decent challenge to it, but nothing crazy. Overall, it's just a fun track, and it's got some great music. And along with that, the obstacles are really fun. Shout out to those weird wooden piranha plant things. Next, let's go to the penultimate track of this game, but not of the list, Bowser's Castle. First off, does anyone remember the Mario Kart Wii Connect sets? The Bowser's Castle one was sick. Oh, but the track's fun, and it's full of great set pieces. The wavy road, the lava geysers, and I mean everyone knows the giant Bowser mech. Along with that, it's just a fun layout, and pretty challenging. I've definitely gotten my shit rocked a multitude of times. But it's one of the better Bowser castles in the series, and a fun time. I really love the giant bridge jump as well at the start. After this, we have our last GameCube track, GCN DK Mountain. First off, big fan of the cannon sections in Mario Kart. I know you do nothing, but I like them and I think they're cool. Anywho, onto the actual track. It's got a really fun layout, and it's another track that feels right at home in Mario Kart Wii, with cool gimmicks like boulders and the Bridge of Doom and Despair. Along with this, I love the aesthetic, and I really like that the mountain has a face. It makes me happy. But besides that, it's just a really fun track to race on, with a bunch of cool corners to cut, and shortcuts, and boulders, and Now, let's finish off B tier with a fan favorite, Mushroom Gorge. I really like how this track looks, as we haven't really gotten a Mario Kart track with this kind of vibe before, or since. And the layout is fun. It's a little basic as it is a Mushroom Cup track, but that doesn't mean there isn't any difficulty. The main gimmick with this track is the mushrooms, obviously. The red ones bounce you, and the green ones don't. And I may be stupid, but I find the physics of bouncing on the mushrooms to be way more unruly in this game compared to later iterations of the track. But back to the positives, the song for this track is great. I mean, all in all, it's a great track through and through. And while the physics can be a little bit unruly, it definitely leaves a big impression. Now that we finished B tier, let's keep it going and move on to... As we get into A tier, we have tracks that I would consider truly great. And no better place to start than with the Flower Cup's finale, Wario's Gold Mine. I love the theming of this track, as it's another pretty unique setting for the series. Along with that, I love the layout as it plays a lot with elevation, with you going up and down a lot, almost like you're on a roller coaster. And to top all that off, we have the minecarts, which are a great addition to the track and make it feel way more dynamic. It's just a great track overall, and has another banger song to go with it. But after that, we actually have our final retro track of the game, DS Peach Gardens. First off, I love the atmosphere of this track, as we've gotten a ton of Peach tracks before, and they always pretty much feature her castle in one way or another. But I think it's cool that they used that idea for something more interesting, going into the garden. But besides that, we have a really fun layout with some cool shortcuts and a pretty interesting section with the chain chomps running around in the maze, with a cool risk and reward aspect to them, as they carry item boxes behind them. It's just a great time, and while it may not be perfect for Mario Kart as Waluigi Stadium and some other retros were, it's just a great track overall. Next up, we have Toad's Factory. First off, the vibes and music are great. I love everything about how this place is designed with all of its cartoony factory equipment and the colors, and the music is fantastic. Along with that, this track, while not having a very complex layout as seen by the minimap, more than makes up for it with how many obstacles and gimmicks there are on the course. From the item box press thingies to the conveyor belts and the mud, there's just always something happening on this course. So that even when you're still technically on a straightaway, there's so much fun stuff going on. Obviously, this is a Mushroom Cup course. I mean, it isn't too hard, but I think it still finds a way to keep it interesting, and I commend it for that. Coming up next, we have Daisy Circuit. This is another track that's always been a personal favorite of mine. It doesn't have a really complex layout, but I just find it so much fun to race on. Firstly, the music is one of my favorite tracks in the game, and along with that, I'm a sucker for setting these tracks at sunset, as the orange sky just makes this track have its own sense of identity, and everything here just feels so warm and welcoming. But for the actual track, I think that while it doesn't have any complex moments, it's just really fun with lots of turns that feel really nice to drift around, and has one really fun shortcut right at the beginning when you jump out of the building. I know this may seem high for a circuit track, but I always have fun on this track and it stays in my mind, so shouldn't it place high for that? Next up, far from Desert Hills, we have the much better Dry Dry Ruins. I find that online this track has a pretty mixed reception, and personally, I don't understand why. This track has this pretty much good theming as a track that mostly takes place in the desert can have, with the centerpiece being a giant pyramid. Along with that, it's got a generally fun layout with some pretty tricky sections, like where you use the half pipes to avoid being slowed down by the sand. Along with this, I really like how the track changes over time. It's nothing crazy, but I like that the pillars start to fall over and the sand pit towards the end fills up more and more. Along with that, this track, again, like pretty much every track in the game, houses some more banger music. This track is a great time, and quite an underrated gem from this game that I think should get more attention. And rounding out A tier, we have Moonview Highway. This is my personal favorite of all the traffic courses Mario Kart has done over the years, basically meaning that they have cars that drive alongside the road that you're driving while you race. And I love how this track does it, as they really amp up the difficulty. And they know how dangerous they are, as there are multiple sections that force you to choose between safety and taking the best line possible, while still riding into the incoming danger. Along with that, I just really like this track's aesthetic, especially the city portion with all the billboards and lights. And oh my gosh, once again, the music is fire. But after all that dilly-dallying, we can finally get to the cream of the crop. With only the top 5 tracks left, let's slide into... Now first, let me start off by saying that if you ask me a couple months from now, S tier could be completely reordered, as all these are fantastic tracks, but one of them has to be the worst of the best, and that's why, first, let's talk about Maple Tree Way. Okay, I of course have to mention first how amazing the theming is of this track. I love the whole autumn forest aesthetic, always been one of the best seasons, don't at me. And I love just how vibrant the colors are in this track, especially the orange used for the trees. It just has so many pretty moments, like the cannon shot in the giant net. It's such a pretty track, and oh my god, the music is great! Now, this track doesn't really have much in the way of gimmicks. I mean, there's the cool rope bridge and the piles of leaves, and oh, the wigglers. But they don't really do a whole lot. Kinda just walk around. But it doesn't really matter, as the layout is already great. It has so many twists and turns and cool moments like the half pipe. It's a Mario Kart all-timer, and it's clear to see why. Next up in 4th place, we have Koopa Cake. This has always been one of my favorites. The theming isn't too crazy, but I love the underwater section, and the grays on the rocks look very nice with this track. I mean, why would you ever want to change it? But besides that, this track is a great layout, and a really fun gimmick with the rushing water being used all over the track to really create this sense of speed. But all in all, it's not really super complicated. Just a great time with some great music to go alongside it. Afterwards, taking home the bronze is Rainbow Road. For these last 3 tracks, I actually had each of them in first place at one point or another throughout the ranking, so I want you guys to know that it's a very close decision. But first, I love this Rainbow Road. This is the most space-like a Rainbow Road has ever felt. Well, before Mario Kart 7. And I love how much they play with elevation throughout the track. It's also a pretty hard track. I would say maybe the hardest Rainbow Road we've ever had. And I really like that. But just because it's hard doesn't mean its layout isn't fun. It has tons of tight turns that feel amazing to do. And along with that, it's got some really cool sections, like the cannon, the half pipes. It's really got nothing in the way of gimmicks though, besides the wavy road. But again, it doesn't really need it. Oh my god, the music is heavenly. Taking second place, we have the ever fan favorite Coconut Mall. This track has really grown on me over the years. I've always known how popular it was, and I did like it, but I wasn't as in love with it as everyone else seemed to be. But I've learned the error of my ways. This track has such a great theme, both aesthetically and musically. I mean, everyone knows the Coconut Mall theme. Along with that, I love how much decision making there is involved in this track. As firstly, there are tons of split paths all throughout the map, as well as the main gimmick of this track being that the conveyor belts switch directions throughout the race, meaning that you always have to switch up your strategy. As well as the layout being great, the aesthetic is great. I love all the audience members lined up throughout the mall and the different shops all throughout and the full thing. Honestly, my only complaint is that it feels like at times you spend a big chunk of the race kind of just driving straight. But it really isn't that big of a deal. I mean, come on man, it's Coconut Mall! Finally, we move on to my pick for the best track in the game. And if you've been paying attention to what one track is missing, you might be a bit surprised at my pick. That being DK Summit. I honestly didn't think this would be my number one pick when I started making this list. I thought it would have been Rainbow Road. But I just love this track so much. First, let's talk theming. The colors they use for the snow is so pretty in this game, giving everything a nice blue and white gradient. Along with this, I love the extreme sports angle, with all of these jumps and half pipes and the giant crowd and the screen at the finish line. It all just feels right at home in Mario Kart Wii. Along with this, the music is great. Not my favorite music track in the game, that probably belongs to Rainbow Road, but it's still an all-timer. And the layout is just so fun. I mean, besides the very beginning, there's really no section where you're driving straight. You're either doing tricks off half pipes, or swerving around corners, or dodging snow, or tricking off the snow bumps, or dodging the snowboarding Shy Guys. There's just so much to do. It may not have the difficulty of Rainbow Road, or the options that Coconut Mall presents, but it's just fun. And isn't that what's truly important for a Mario Kart map? And that fun factor is exactly why it's my favorite track in Mario Kart Wii. Now, like I promised at the beginning of the video, there's still one little thing I want to cover. Now that we have a ranking of all the tracks, according to the rankings, which cup do I consider the best? What I've done is that I've given all the tracks a point value based on their ranking. Like DK Summit gets 32 points for placing first, and Desert Hills gets 1 point for placing last, and so on and so forth. And so, I added each cup's total together. Now, I know this is definitely not a definitive or scientific way to rank these courses. I just thought it'd be a neat thought experiment. So, I'm gonna quickly fire off the list. Honestly, I'm a bit surprised that Flower Cup got 3rd place, as 2 of their tracks made it into the top 2. But I guess that also points out some of the flaws in ranking it like this. But honestly, besides that oddity, I think this pretty much encapsulates how I feel about the cups. I think that Mario Kart Wii and DS hadn't really hit their strides yet when it came to retro tracks, so we really didn't get to see any gems like we would with Mario Kart 8 and beyond. And that's not to say those original tracks are bad, it's more just they didn't really know how to work with some of the lesser ones, as the retro tracks that would be considered good in these games were usually the ones that were already considered good in their home games. But still, even this early there are some exceptions to that rule, as Waluigi Stadium improves a lot by being in this game. But that's more than enough rambling from me. I've loved Mario Kart Wii for my whole life, and while it's by no means a perfect game, I think to this day there's tons to appreciate, especially in its tracks. My name's Versanite, and I really wish the Jet Bubble was better in this game. It's just such a silly little vehicle. See ya!